The Brown Park Podcast is brought to you by Grow Clinics. They're Australia's leading hair transplant clinics, and you can go to growclinics.com.au. How I need a drink before we start?
You have that drink and I'll have the drink that I can have at the moment. A water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no alcohol for me for the immediate future.
Okay. And that is why we called this episode, Holy Shit, Dion Almost Died.
True story.
Christo and Dion are being viciously mediocre on the Brown Park Podcast.
Look, it's so funny that we started doing the viciously mediocre last episode because we'd had quite a few people sort of say, hey, you guys you're always talking to guests, but you never just talk. So we decided to talk. And then you go and almost die.
Nobody saw that one coming. See, I did it for the content.
And like, just to be clear, this is like the first time we've actually caught up face to face since the incident. There's lots of text, phone calls, stuff like that, but we haven't actually
seen each other face to face.
Conversed. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I wasn't up for it. I wasn't up for any chats, any visitors in hospital. The only people that visited me in hospital were my immediate family, like my mum, dad, my wife, my daughter, and my brother, and that was it.
None taken.
None taken. Not my brother from another mother. No. You stayed home.
So I don't even know where to start. We had a night with the kids where we were all hanging out, and you were fine.
When was that? Because time eludes me now. Because I don't know. Like I feel like it.
So that was Halloween.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yep.
Okay. So we had done Halloween with our kids, and we'd taken them out trick or treating. Our wives were in Sydney.
Yes.
And you were okay. You'd been sick that week.
I did have a sore throat that week.
Yeah.
Which the doctors, think might have been the beginning of it all. Funny enough, yeah.
And the interesting thing is I remember having a conversation with you that night talking about when I had the shingles earlier this year, I went straight to the doctor.
Yes, you did. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
And you said on the night, you've gone, I would never do that. I'd probably be bleeding out of my eyes before I went to the doctor.
Yes, true.
But not in this case.
It kind of did get to that point. Okay, so that week I had a sore throat. A few days later I got a headache or whatever, but I got a lump under my left arm.
Yeah.
And
so hang on, what was the lump under your arm?
Well, I don't know. I started getting this lump under my left arm, and it was super sore. It was just getting worse and worse over a couple of days. So I went to the doctor on the Monday. Monday, I want to say now because I've got notes now about the whole fucking ordeal.
Yeah.
I went to the doctor on the Monday, the 4th of November, and I said, "Hey, I've got this lump under my arm. It's horrible. It's giving me grief." And he goes, "Oh, it's just like a bacterial infection or a viral."
Yeah. Because isn't it your lymph nodes under your arm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, just have some Berocca and Nurofen, go home, you'll be right.
Since when do doctors prescribe Berocca?
Oh, fuck, do I know? Vitamin B or something? I don't know. But I mean...
Have an espresso martini and go home, mate.
Yeah, well, pretty much. They might have done more. So this is on the Monday, and then, I did what he said, and then it just got worse and worse to the point where the pain was completely unbearable, and... at 1:30 in the morning on the Tuesday morning, so the 5th, I woke up at 1:30 and I woke Casey up and I said, look, I think I've got to take myself to the hospital because I can't do this anymore. It was fucking terrible because neither of us knew how bad things were.
What kind of pain was it?
Just I couldn't even put my left arm, I couldn't even rest my left arm beside my body because this lump, it was sort of, it got to the point where it was almost the size of my palm. Under my thing, and it was swelling up. And
so it's like a testicle under your arm.
Like a big-ass testicle. And I couldn't roll over, I couldn't lie on it, couldn't put my arm down, anything like that. So I went, fuck, I'm going to go to the hospital. So I drove myself to the hospital.
One-handed?
I don't. It's all so vague now. Driving to the hospital now, I can barely remember it. And people say, well, how come, Casey didn't take you, whatever. We're talking, it was 1:30 in the morning, someone was asleep. We didn't know what was going on. I just thought, hey, there's a pain in my arm. I'll go see if they'll give me some painkillers. Ultimately, that's what I thought I was going for. They'll give me some painkillers and I'll get the hell out of Dodge. So
you got to the hospital and I remember waking up with a text message saying, hey, I'm at the hospital. Don't ring Casey yet, but I'm in for some tests. And
yes.
both Sarah and I have woken up and gone, what the fuck? What happened? How did that elevate so quickly?
Well, when when you go to the ER, they triage you, and as soon as I get there, the guy, the nurse, goes, Dion, you don't look well at all. I'm like, no shit. Hence why I'm here. And I mean, look, I wasn't in the mood for any jokes or anything.
Yeah.
And,
which is rare because you can usually pull a joke out of somewhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, and I did have a couple when I was, on death's door, but it was. I mean, I kept saying to the nurses and doctors that were treating me, look, I'm usually a whole lot more funny and animated than I am right now, but I was fighting for my life.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know that until later, but yeah.
Well, that's it. And then, it's bad when you go there and there's like 20 or 30 people in the waiting room of the ER, and they just go, all right, Dion, you're next. And I went straight in.
Shit. Okay, yeah.
And my blood pressure had dropped to something like 87 over something. I don't even know. Like, it was super low.
Yeah.
And shit just kept escalating from that point. Like, I deteriorated quickly from, I guess, the point I got to hospital.
We're all somewhat not spiritual as in godlike, but that, something's out there. But something has obviously tapped you on the shoulder at 1:30 and, tapped you under the shoulder at 1:30 in the morning.
Heavily.
And said,
punch me in the shoulder.
Yeah, go the fuck to hospital because...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because, because if I waited any longer, if I had just taken that first doctor's advice on just going home having...
A Barocca and a good lie down.
A Barocca and Nurofen.
Yeah.
If I waited a couple of days, Casey had a meeting with my doctor yesterday, and the doctor said to her, we could be sitting here right now saying what a good guy Dion was.
Fuck.
So, look, okay, now, what did I have you...
So hang on, no. Walk through it. You were triaged, you were taken straight through. And
all hell broke loose, essentially. Because my blood pressure had dropped. They didn't know what was going on. Because obviously I was deteriorating really fucking rapidly.
Yeah.
And then they just started running blood tests. And
so how many needles did you have?
At one point I had three cannulas in.
Yeah.
At one point. But needles, Jesus, I couldn't tell you how many.
Well, I know Casey, because your wife has had like an update on Messenger, keeping everybody updated with what was going on, plus us on the side. So she would have been getting, bombarded by everybody. But she was saying, and you're going to love this, but for the last 12 months, you've been heavily working out.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, this was the year. This was the year that I was taking control of my health. Like, I mean, we interviewed Denham Hitchcock last year, and I said, that's it. By the end of 2024, I want to be fit, healthy, looking good, and feeling good.
Yeah. And it almost killed you. But they were saying that sometimes because you'd bulked up so much, they were having trouble getting the needles through.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the bright side of it.
Yeah,
bright sides of it when they said they've got to get through the muscle to get through to one of the veins for the cannula. So that was nice. That was a highlight, I guess.
Normal Dion would sit there and go, "Yeah, you do. Yeah, you
right.
do.
Yeah, you could feel it if you want, feel it, squeeze it." But none of that.
Day one, you're sitting in the hospital, and they have no idea.
So I'm still in the what you call just the ER area where they take you and then they assess you, do all your observations and that. And then the next, I don't know, because time eludes me, but I want to say within 12 hours of that, they put me into this acute room. So into this room just on my own. Yeah. Which is when I think everyone sort of realised I kind of started going, why am I being segregated? Yeah. I mean, how bad is this? So I was in there for a while, and then, when I knew I realised it was bad, it was when the nurse says, we need to put a catheter in. Oh. Because you couldn't stand up, could you? Couldn't do anything. Could not do anything. And
I'll come back to the catheter in a second, but was this acute care, because you were also in the infectious disease ward at one point?
That's where I ended up.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's where I was put into this area because at the time they didn't know what they were dealing with. So at one point they thought, who knows? They didn't know what it was. Yeah. Nobody knew. Nobody could give anybody answers. And to be honest with you, Casey probably knows more than I do even to this point because I wasn't coherent enough to take in anything anybody was saying. because I was in that much pain.
Yeah.
And I kind of relate the pain to, and I've said it before, like I had a twisted testicles when I was in high school, right? And like, I've gotten through my whole life relating back to that pain. Is it that bad? No, the twisted nut was fucking way worse than this. But this time it was like, it didn't, like the twisted nut didn't even, come close to what I was feeling like. I actually at one point wanted to die because I couldn't put up with the pain anymore.
Holy shit.
It was horrible.
So there were, I mean, and the I felt really guilty.
Oh, we laugh now.
I felt really guilty on the first night because I sent you, when you said I'm in hospital and I'm probably going to be here for a while, and I wrote to you, is this because you don't eat your vegetables?
To which I said, Pete Evans said it's fine.
Yeah. And I was like, later on going, I regret that text now because he was almost dying.
You shouldn't, because I needed it. It was terrible.
Tell me about the catheter.
Yeah, righto. This is when you know you're sick, right? Okay. So, I mean, I was aware.
Yeah.
And of course, it had to be one of the young nurses that was doing it. And I'm like, oh God. So like, I mean, I was grotesquely ill, but when they turned their back, I still kind of stretched it a little bit. I'm thinking, look, I'm sick and it's cold. So legit. I'm crook as a dog, and I'm there just trying to.
Did you make any jokes like, can you turn the temperature up in here a little bit?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I did think about it. So like I'm trying to stretch it out a bit before they, pull the covers back and get into it. And
think of Casey.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever had a hose rammed down the eye of my penis. Never had that done before.
Okay, I've never had that before, and I hope to God I never do. Was there movement,
mate? Not even, not even close. Nothing.
See, because that's what I was worried. That was what I was worried about in my vasectomy. I was worried, what if it moves? What if there's movement down there? That's going to be really embarrassing.
When the male doctor starts playing with it, you mean? But there's a whole lot more questions there.
What is a catheter like?
It's they squeeze some numbing gel down the eye of it first. Thanks. Woo, brrr.
Num.
And then they say, look, it's hard to explain, but it's quick. It's quick.
Uh-huh.
But that's, I mean, like I say, ultimately, when you're sick because you just don't really care about exposing yourself. And I got more and more comfortable exposing myself throughout this whole journey. And we'll get to it, I'm sure of it. But, that wasn't fun. And that's when I kind of knew things were, I'm like, why are they putting a catheter in? Because I had no idea how long I was going to be in for.
Yeah, but you were also struggling to get up to go to the toilet, weren't you?
Look, to be honest, I couldn't really walk by this point.
Yeah.
Because that, I find out later on that all my organs were failing.
Okay, catheters in. Does that just mean you pee whenever you want?
Well, yeah, look, and that was the bonus of it. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why they put it in, because my kidneys weren't functioning and they had to monitor it. They pumped me with 4 litres worth of fluid and only 60 mil went to my bladder. So they're wondering why the fluid that they're giving me isn't going to where it should.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it saved me having to get up to go to the toilet. You don't even know. Like you have a nap and you wake up and there's wee in your bag.
So I'm glad we can laugh about this now. Look, this is going to be a grotesque question, but what about number 2? Because so set the scene. When you're on holidays or you go camping, you don't poo.
Well, there's stories here though, because so they couldn't give me morphine or anything because my liver was failing, right?
Yeah.
For some rhyme or reason. So they loaded me up on Oxycontin and Endone and all this kind of stuff, which makes you constipated.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to go to do a number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't pass anything through my bowels until day 8.
Wow.
But you
weren't really eating, were you?
Well, not really, but it got to the point where, I'm highly constipated.
Yeah.
Like highly. And I just couldn't poo. So there's, this is okay, we'll just go straight there, right? So you know how I said you get more and more comfortable
Yes.
with being, exposing yourself.
Yep.
So I'm 8 days into the hospital. I'm in a world of hurt, still fighting for life.
Mm.
I need to poo, but I can't. And so my wife goes, you need to ask for an enema. I'm like, nah, not doing it. And she goes, you need to. I'm like, fuck. All right, fine. So I asked a nurse. So they come in with this little tube. And I said, what do you do with that? And they said,
brace yourself and think of England.
yeah. You insert it into your anus and you squeeze. I'm like, they said, you can do it yourself. I said, I'm not doing it.
Casey,
you'll have to do it. No. So I said to the nurse, you'll have to do it. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. So sorry you have to do this. And the nurse, look, and a shout out to the nurses and everyone at Gold Coast University Hospital. They were effing amazing the whole time. So then I've got to roll over on my side and have something inserted into my bumhole.
Yeah.
So I can poo. I'm like, this is what it's come down to.
This is the Brown Park Podcast. Now, a word from our sponsors.
Big thanks to Grow Clinics for continuing to support the Brown Park Podcast. And has your confidence dimmed alongside your thinning hair? Do you find yourself avoiding mirrors, hiding beneath hats, longing for the days your hair danced in the wind? Well, you're not alone. Hair loss can take a toll, but it doesn't have to steal your joy. With Grow Clinics, you can rewrite your story. They offer a path to rediscover your vibrant self, a journey towards a thicker, healthier head of hair, and their innovative techniques delivered by compassionate experts can transform not just your appearance, but your perspective. At Grow Clinics, they understand the emotional weight of hair loss. They believe in empowering you with personalised solutions, honest advice, and unwavering support. You're not just a patient, you're a partner in rediscovering your confidence strand by strand. So don't let hair loss dim your inner glow. Take the first step towards a fuller, happier you. Contact Grow Clinics today for a free consultation and learn how they can help you rewrite your narrative at growclinics.com.au.
Christo and Dion are being viciously mediocre on the Brown Park Podcast.
So one of the other things that you had was like there was liver failure. Your kidneys are at 20%.
Worse than that. Maybe like 18% or something like that.
Okay.
Multiple organ failure. It was liver, heart, kidneys.
Yeah, and your heart as well.
Mm.
So what do they what do they tell you when you're there? Do are they honest with you, or do they sort of take Casey to the side and go, "Have you got your life insurance updated?" or what? Because I know that is a question you actually asked.
Yeah, well, when I said to Casey, we need to get our affairs in order, because it gives you the realization that shit, I'm not going to live forever.
Yeah.
And I don't think I knew how serious it was. I wouldn't say that I was told that, you're going to fight for your life or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just knew that, the doctors were saying you're really, really, really sick. I'm like, okay, all right. Because, when I was younger, I had asthma.
Yeah.
Ended up in hospital with a collapsed lung. And I was fighting for my life then, but the doctors never told me. They just said you need to breathe and get your heart rate down to this point or whatever. And then it wasn't until I get out that I found out how serious it was. So it was somewhat similar to that.
You're in hospital. You didn't actually find out for, there was several days where you didn't know what the fuck was going on, right?
It was a guessing game. Yeah, it was a guessing game. At one point they said it was a viral infection, then a bacterial infection, then it was both. But yeah, look, ultimately, I think it was a strep infection that was the most. The strep infection was the main thing, because then it went to sepsis.
So what's a strep infection? Is that?
I don't know. Well, I mean, you know me. I don't ask questions.
I know,
but
this is your life.
Yeah. I don't know, but they reckon maybe it has something to do with the sore throat. Because you have strep throat, right? Honestly, no idea. No idea. So it was a strep infection. Then it went to sepsis, and then I got something.
Sepsis is fucking serious, though.
Yeah, super serious. And then it went to. I mean, if you Google, I think it's called TSS, toxic shock syndrome. Something. Yeah. That's where I got to. So Google that.
Hi, listeners. We're just Googling for you right now. Rare life-threatening complication of certain bacterial infections. Risk factors include recent surgery, open wounds, and the use of super absorbent tampons.
Well, yeah, I've got to stop using them. I've got to stop using them for my blood nose.
Jesus. So you were in hospital for Like 14 days.
14 days.
At what point did they actually know what was wrong with you or have any kind of clue at what they were treating?
Look, I don't know. Maybe they were feeding me a shit ton of antibiotics.
I know, because at one point you sent a message to our group, like it's just our two families, saying, I've taken my right to come off all medication. And we're like, ooh! Sarah was in tears going, what's he fucking doing? And I'm like, he's obviously not feeling well.
So yeah, I invoked my right to refuse medication because I woke up, I don't know, like I say, time eludes me, but I want to say like day 4, and I looked down to my left-hand side and I'd blown up like a...
Yeah, because you had a massive rash down the side.
And this rash, like the lump under my arm just kept getting bigger and bigger, turned red. So I started off under my arm and we ended up right down to my groin.
Yeah, it did.
On day 3 or 4, I want to say...
Swelling in the groin?
No, it didn't swell that part, like to the left of it, unfortunately. But I look down, I wake up in the morning and I look down at my side and I'm just blown up like a beach ball and I felt like I was going to pop.
Oh.
Like, it's hard to explain. It was in that much pain. I look down and I'm all red and it's just swollen. I almost felt like if you hit me with a pin, my body would explode.
I know they were hoping that it might, so then they could get under there because I know at one point they said they want to get in there, but they couldn't because of a risk of further infection.
Yes, correct.
And so they were hoping that you were actually going to pop.
Yeah, well,
and then they could get the juices from underneath.
Correct. Yeah. So they could figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So it was at that point when I went, I'm being fed all these medications. Yeah. Like, man, and look, I wasn't great that morning. That was a fucking low point. I sort of let loose at the nurse at the time. I just wake up, I freaked out, and I said to the nurse, as she went to put in some more antibiotics into the IV, I went, I'm stopping all medications. I need to speak to a doctor because it's not working. Because shit was just getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not doing it anymore. Enough's enough. Didn't know whether I was making the right or wrong decision. But I just knew what they were doing at that point in time wasn't working. And I think in hindsight, yes, it was. It just wasn't working quickly, essentially. So, I freaked out that morning because I thought I was going to burst. And
did they freak out when you said I invoked my right, or did they try and talk you around? Or
the nurse did a little bit. She left the room pretty abruptly. Kind of feel bad now, but I
mean,
then the doctors
they've got to
came
be used
in.
to it. This was like on day 8 or something, I think, where you called it and said, "No, fuck this, I've had enough."
I thought it was like, look, it could have been day 5
because you were nauseous.
Well, I was nauseous like half the time, or most of the time, because I was, obviously fed so many drugs. I was on, 3 different antibiotics.
Did you get the whistle?
No whistle.
Oh, you didn't get pethidine. How annoying.
Didn't. I don't know if they do that. Do they do that when you're in? I mean, I think they only do that when you're in.
They do that when you're in a lot of pain.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but like I said, at this point in time, that's when they realised, because then the cardiologist got involved because the left-hand side of my heart wasn't working properly. My kidneys were failing. My liver was failing. So it was across the board. Shit was heading south, and nothing was helping.
So when was the turning point?
See, that's why I don't know if it was day 8, because I want to say for 14 days, I felt like I could go home on like the Saturday before I left. So maybe it might have been. That was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It started turning, I want to say, at about day 7 to the point where I started.
So everything started to work.
Well, I'd wake up in the morning
and
then like my left hand side, it wasn't as red as low, like, because they had to do it, but they were drawing a texture line around the mark on my side. So I'd wake up in the morning and then it would be far outside the lines, and that's when I knew it was growing and getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But then obviously it started to subside, which was nice.
Taking the catheter out, did you wee?
No, but I did get splashed a little bit. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but it was another young nurse that did it. I'm like, fucking hell. Like, I mean, I don't know whether I prefer a dude did it or not, but it was another young nurse. I'm like, God damn. Anyway, all right, have at it.
Did they laugh at all?
No.
No, because that would have been worse going.
You imagine how good would that be? we're taking your catheter out, and they pull the sheets back and go, oh, we use the really thin hose for you.
Oh my God! All right, so in the aftermath of it all, you're on the pathway back, but your kidneys are still not right, or is it liver?
Kidneys are still shot. I mean, liver's still not great, but the kidneys aren't coming back as well as they should. So I was in hospital yesterday for a kidney biopsy. So they called me back in. So I went back in for the day yesterday and had a chunk of kidney taken out so they could figure out what's going on.
Oh, so they actually operated.
Well, it's
or
keyhole.
They shove a needle.
Essentially, they just stab you, and then a little thing just takes a bit of your kidney so they can check it out. So the kidneys aren't playing the game at the moment, and I still feel like shit. And it's hard to explain how I'm feeling. But I still don't feel myself. I get super emotional at the drop of a hat.
I'm surprised it's taken a while to get you to do this because I know
I wasn't ready.
You weren't ready.
Because
I'm surprised
I started having flashbacks of like the family visiting, and then Casey and Summer then leaving, and then sitting in the hotel room. Far from a hotel. And then just sitting there in your own thoughts for a long time in a room is not, for me, who's an extrovert, isn't going to be good in any way, shape, or form. And then when I realised, that maybe I could have died, I was like, fuck, what if? So
What's on your bucket list now?
Harley Davidson.
I know
Harley Davidson.
Yep, I know you. You'll have come out and gone, nah, fucking almost died. It's on. Let's go. What are we doing?
Well, I haven't even really got to that point because I'm still feeling
still feeling
shit. I even went to start to journal my thoughts and all that on it, but I'm not even ready to even do that yet. I don't think.
Yeah.
But what I do want to talk about, like the first night I'm in there, second night I'm in there, I got put in this room with 4 other people, right?
Yeah.
And the characters, and this is why I have so much respect for nurses and doctors in the hospitals. So I'm in this bed with, there's 4 other beds in the room, separated by a curtain, and there's this guy, I don't know how old he was, but he had a drainage tap in his belly. And I wasn't in the mood for anyone to be causing a ruckus, right? And this guy, maybe he wasn't the full quid or what, I'm not sure, but he kept trying to take out his tap. And he's like, it can come out. My dad is one of the most experienced surgeons in Australia. I know this. I'm not new to any of this. This tap's ready to come out. I'm taking it out. So he tries to start taking his drainage tap out. And the nurse is like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You need to sit down, calm down.
Yeah.
And the next minute, I hear him trying to get out of his bed because he goes, I've got to go meet a friend.
His meth.
Yeah, his meth friend, probably. And they said, no, you can't go. And then he starts trying to take out his tap again. And they say, look, you can take it out. We can take it out in an hour. We just need the doctor to come and take it out. So the doctor comes an hour later to take it out. And this guy goes, you're not taking it out. How do I know you're experienced enough to take it out? My father's, one of the biggest surgeons in Australia. And how do I know you're qualified to take it out? And I just lost it. And I went, mate, you were going to take it out yourself 15 minutes ago. and he goes, who's that? And it wasn't my finest moment. And I went, it's Jesus. But he didn't say a word after that.
He didn't say anything. You shut him up.
Yeah,
he probably thought he was hearing voices.
But anyway, he ended up having security sit with him for the night and that. And then I was moved to my own room later on.
For his safety or for yours?
For his. Well, for everyone's. But I was like I say, I was in that much pain. And then to have somebody causing a ruckus, I'm just I'm just breathing, focus on my breathing every minute that I was in there to just try to feel okay. And then I had this clown trying to take out his drainage tap himself. And then when the doctor comes to do it, wouldn't let him do it.
He's probably sitting there like later on that night, wherever he was with his meth-riddled friends going, I spoke to Jesus tonight.
I spoke to Jesus.
He came to me in the emergency ward of the Gold Coast University Hospital.
I'll tell you what was good though. It was so when I go to check in, to the hospital check-in, when I drove myself there that morning, Nick Owen, who was our, I think, second or third guest on the podcast, he was working security there.
Oh, nice.
And it's amazing when you're in that situation what a friendly face does. Yeah. it was awesome to see a friendly face.
And Nick
there.
is certainly a lovely guy who's been through it, so he would have been full of compassion.
He was good. Took my mind off it, and then I texted him when I was still there 2 weeks later. I said, "Hey mate, just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate you being there, and
have you moved my car yet?"
Well, because and that was a thing too, right? So I pulled up there at 1:30 in the morning. I park in the emergency spot, and it said cars will be towed or whatever if it's parked there for more than an hour and a half. And I'm texting Nick saying, "Hey man, I think I might be here for longer than a couple of hours.
Yeah,
will my car be right?" So he sorted out my car and made sure my car didn't get towed, which was nice. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that.
Nice.
And so like I say, I texted him when I was there, still in there, like 2 weeks later. He goes, "Fuck, man, are you still here? How sick were you?" And I said, "Well, man, I almost died." So still here, about to check out, but
nice. Well, I'm glad you're here, brother.
Thank you. It's good. It's still good to be here. Let me tell you. I mean, look, if you want to lose weight rapidly, can't recommend.
Yeah. How many Ks have you lost?
I lost 10.
Fuck.
Well, just under 10.
Yeah. There's easier ways to do it. There's better ways to do it, though.
Yes. I mean, and look, when I say can recommend, really don't. No. From a few standpoints, I freaked my family out. I freaked myself out.
You freaked everybody out.
Freaked everybody out because, it's funny. I've had messages from people saying, because I was in Melbourne a couple of weeks before.
Yeah.
And they said, you look so fit and healthy.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I felt fit and healthy. And then, this, I guess the ultimate message of this recording is, like you said at the beginning, if you don't think something's right, you need to go talk to somebody and not just suck it up. Because, I sucked it up for a couple of days longer than I probably should have. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't act on it quick enough because the initial shit GP said have a Berocca and Nurofen. Like, sweet. And this is another thing too. When I was driving to the hospital, I thought, am I overreacting? Like legit. I thought I'm driving there going, am I being dramatic? Am I wasting everyone's time?
You got to trust your own body and do it.
For sure.
Christo and Dion are being viciously mediocre on the Brown Park Podcast.
By the way, Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to the show this year. We will be back with a new series soon. Some big-name guests coming up as well.
What a year.
And Merry Christmas, Dion almost died.
Woohoo!
Not a woohoo. Not a woohoo. Why are you happy?
It's cold.